The popular uprising against the Ukrainian government's decision to move away from the European Union and closer to Russia was a big topic at the Munich Security Conference. Secretary Kerry says President Yanukovych must do more to convince Ukrainians that he's serious about change.
The vast majority of Ukrainians want to live freely in a safe and a prosperous country, and they are fighting for the right to associate with partners who will help them realize their aspirations. And they have decided that that means their futures do not have to lie with one country alone, and certainly not coerced. The United States and the EU stand with the people of Ukraine in that fight.
Former boxer turned opposition activist Vitaly Klitschko says the protesters' goal is a modern European state.
Right now, they told enough to wait, enough for corruption, enough to live without rules, and they getting slowly aggressive. And we need reaction from President of Ukraine, but he's have full power in Ukraine and full responsibility for everything what happened in Ukraine.
President Yanukovych says his opponents are escalating the crisis, unlike his own government, which he says has fulfilled its obligations to end the standoff by replacing the prime minister and by granting an amnesty for arrested protesters. But that amnesty is conditional on protesters withdrawing from state buildings, and they say they'll not give ground until there's an entirely new government. At the Munich Security Conference, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov criticized those who condemn the Ukrainian government's use of force, but do not criticize protesters for occupying state property.
Why don't we condemn those who seize and hold government buildings, attack the police, torch the police, use racist and anti-Semitic and Nazi slogans?
The standoff leaves outside powers with little direct influence to help end the crisis, says European Council of Foreign Relations analyst Olaf Benke in an interview over Skype.
You have to put pressure on the government in certain ways, but by the end of the day, it's pretty much an issue of the Ukrainian people and the demonstrators.
But he says the international community should keep up its criticism of human rights abuses by Yanukovych forces.
His agencies, his police people, the security people are really violating the rights and the civil freedoms actually and rights actually of people on the streets, and that's not acceptable for any of us.
Kerry's urging opposition leaders to remain united in their push for reform, as he says further violence that becomes uncontrollable is not in anyone's interests. He says this should not be seen as a proxy fight between Russia and the United States, as both countries will benefit from a stronger Ukrainian economy. Scott Stearns, VOA News, Munich.